Hello! Today we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to talk about the Magic the Gathering banned and restricted announcements. So yesterday, the Wizards of the Coast dropped a banned and restricted announcement, and there's a lot of hubbub about it. So let's talk about it. A couple things I want to draw out from it. I'm not going to talk about the standard portion. There's a lot of people talking about that. They didn't ban anything in standard, and that's upsetting to many people, and so I'll let them talk about that. What I do want to talk about is the legacy and the EDH news that came out of this. So basically the ban and restricted announcement was that in Legacy, Sensei's Divining Top got banned. In Vintage, Gush and Gitaxian Probe got restricted. And for the EDH news, the EDH Rules Committee came out with this news that Leovold, Emissary of Trest, got banned, and that Protean Hulk got unbanned. So what I want to talk about is just what does that mean in Legacy? What does that mean in EDH, and what does it mean for Magic Finance? What cards and what's the effect of that? So in Legacy, so Sensei's Divining Top getting banned is a big deal. It's a big deal for a particular deck, one of the strongest decks in Legacy, Miracles. And the reason why is because Miracles depends on the combination of Sensei's Divining Top and Counterbalance to control the board and keep the board clean, so that they can play their Jace the Mind Sculptor, or they can prolong the game long enough to play a Entreat the Angels, which is a big spell that makes a bunch of angels. So Sensei's Divining Top and Counterbalance, what they do is you can control the top card of your library and counter spells because of Counterbalance. Every time someone plays a spell, Counterbalance triggers. You check the top card of your library. If the converted mana cost is equal to the spell that the person's playing, it gets countered. So that, in combination with Sensei's Divining Top, the fact that you can tap Sensei's Divining Top, put it on top of your library, and draw a card, means that you can counter any one mana spell whenever you want. And so, because Legacy is an efficient format and it's full of one mana spells, that combination is very good. And that combination, this is not a history of Counterbalance, Countertop, but I mean that combination was in other decks before it was in Miracles, and it was a whole deck. And I mean I guess Miracles is a Countertop deck, but anyways, that's neither here nor there. My friend Nick, just finished building Miracles, literally this weekend. He wrote us, hey man, I'm getting close to finishing Miracles. He actually wanted a couple predicts from me, and I told him, yeah, no problem, man, you can have those. And and then I asked him yesterday, hey man, do you still want those predicts, just to rub the salt in the wound, and he said no, and I said, as predicted. I know that's a dad joke. So it's funny, but it's not. I mean, it's funny for my friend Nick, because this is the third time that this has happened to him. It happened to him twice in Modern. He just finished a deck the weekend before they banned it. And so, yeah, it's funny for him, not funny for him, but it's funny for us as his friends to be to troll him. But it's a serious situation when someone puts a bunch of money into building a deck and it gets hosed, especially when in Legacy, where the price of an average deck is much higher than it is in Modern or Standard. So that's just man, that is just, it's bad news. So my friend Nick was kind of lamenting about that, and he said he's gonna sell his Legacy cards, which is a bummer because I'd like to play Legacy with him. But we talked about is Miracles still viable without Countertop? And clearly it's not. It's not in its current iteration is not viable, because that was built very. The Countertop combination is what it used to take care of a lot of threats. So you need to restructure it, but back in the day, before Miracles was a deck, there used to be this deck, and I think it still is floating around the Legacy metagame in very small percentages. But there used to be a deck called Landstill, and Landstill is a true control deck, and the way that it wins is it plays a card called Standstill, which is a 2-mana blue enchantment, kind of like Counterbalance. That's why a lot of Landstill decks don't play Counterbalance, because your turn 2 play, you hope it to be Standstill. And so also Landstill decks run Mishra's Factory, and they run Wasteland. So you have a lot of hands that start with like Tundra, Mishra's Factory, or whatever. So it's not hard, but it's harder to get a Counterbalance in play. And some Landstill decks play Counterbalance in the sideboard and stuff like that, because they used to play a top or a couple tops, or sometimes three tops in their list. But anyways, that's just that's tangential. Point being, Landstill used to be a deck. Is Landstill still good? Man, that's a hard call. The Legacy meta is going to shift in a big way, I think, and Landstill could be good, I think, especially like a Jeskai Landstill. You need something that basically take a Deathrite Shaman off the board, because the problem with Landstill is if they have something on turn 1 and you play a Landstill, then you're just going to lose the game. A Standstill, rather. If you play Standstill, you just lose the game. So because they'll just grind their thing until you break the Standstill. And so basically, sorry, I didn't tell you what Standstill does, and maybe you know, but basically the way Standstill works is when you put it in play, it's an enchantment. The next person to play a spell, the other person draws 3 cards. So the idea with the Landstill deck is that you put Standstill in play, and then you wait for them to break it. And if they don't break it, you just beat them down with Mishra's Factory. Or you cycle a Decree of Justice, a big Decree of Justice, and because you cycle it, it doesn't play the card, so that means that you don't break the Standstill, and then you get a bunch of tokens, and then they have to break it, and then you draw cards. And so for the record, most of the time the correct thing to do is to break the Standstill immediately, and it's great to break it with like a Thoughtseize. If you break it with a Thoughtseize, they draw 3 cards, and then you pluck 1. So that's one of the best ways to do it. I guess Vendilion Click will work too if you Vendilion Click into a Standstill. Anyways, that could be good. Some Jeskai Landstill decks run Grim Lavamancer, and so if you turn 1 Grim Lavamancer, and they somehow get a Deathrite Shaman, you can clean that Deathrite Shaman up under a Standstill. So you play a Standstill, and then you clean them up, and then you control the game with Grim Lavamancer and Mishra's Factories until they refill your hand with breaking the Standstill. So that could be good. I would look out for that stuff. There's a Bug Landstill deck, and there's a Jeskai one, and those might be the other decks that kind of are the miracles or control type of decks, that feel that spot in Legacy. I know that Deathrite decks will really start to. I mean, they're already really powerful. They're strong, but I think that they'll start to fill that vacuum of the power vacuum that's left by miracles. And so we'll see a lot of Deathrite decks. This kind of stuff. Abrupt Decay, which is, it's funny because there's so much things happening with this counterbalance combination coming out. One of I don't want to say unintended, but one of the effects that you don't expect is that Abrupt Decay will be less good in Legacy. One of the reasons why Abrupt Decay was played so much is because it kills Counterbalance without being countered. I mean, Abrupt Decay is still a removal spell, but you have Fatal Push, which is a great removal spell for creatures. You got to start asking yourself, what can you Abrupt Decay? You have some swords and Jit and stuff like that, but I think the number of Abrupt Decays will go down in play, which is kind of funny because you'll see more Deathrite Shaman, less Abrupt Decay in those Deathrite Shaman decks. That kind of stuff. So very interesting shifts. I'm not going to pretend to know exactly where the legacy metagame's going, but I think that, you know, people who are playing control decks or miracle decks should try a landstill deck. Landstill, you know, could be good. I mean, there are times when landstill's terrible, and there are times where, you know, it could be okay. So we'll see. You know, definitely Deathrite Shaman decks will be good, and they already continue. I mean, they're good now, and they'll just continue to be good. And I think it's mainly, I say they'll be good because I feel like there's a power vacuum that'll be left by a weakened version of a control deck, and already those Soul Tie decks can easily kind of soak up some of those percentage points, you know. And I think the Soul Tie Deathrite decks have problems with those Eldrazi prison decks, so that, you know, those will probably expand into some of that power vacuum too. So so what does that mean from a Magic finance perspective? Well, it means that Deathrite Shaman will eventually go up in price as it just got reprinted. So well, not just, but it got reprinted. So there's a lot of copies out there depressing the price. But I think as the legacy metagame shifts and people start to look for new decks and whatnot, those copies will get soaked up, and we'll see a bump in Deathrite Shaman in the price. And then what else does it mean? You know, it also means that obviously Sensei's Divine Top is going to go down in price. Counterbalance is going to go down in price. Counterbalance Invocation is going to go down in price. Shout out to Star City Games, who offered to give money back on people who bought those invocations. That's a really good move. It's a really smart business move. So we have that. Legacy, that's my talk about Legacy. EDH, you know, Leovold, I was hoping that Leovold would go down in price. I wanted a couple for Legacy, because Leovold is getting banned in EDH. I figured, oh, maybe it'll go down. But the fact that Deathrite decks are going to rise in Legacy now means that Leovold is going to be in more demand in Legacy. So we might even see that price go up. As weird as that sounds, right? If it dips because of a panic, because of EDH, I'm going to definitely buy a couple copies, because I expect it to go up because of Legacy. And so there's that. Protean Hulk has gone up. It's gone up to $20. It was, I don't know, $1, $2 yesterday, and now it's $20 this morning. I ordered one just in case I wanted to play it. I don't see it to be very good. The only like, I see some dream scenarios where you flash it in on turn 2 and you get your combo off, but do you really want to be doing that in EDH? I think that will just make people mad. You'll have to find a new play group. You know, there's a lot of degenerate things you can do in EDH, and Protean Hulk being one of them is not a big deal. You can interact with it with things like Leyline of the Void, Rest in Peace, Extirpate, you know, well, Extirpate for some versions of the combo. If you're using a Revelark version of the combo, Extirpate and you know, Surgical Extraction are fine. You know, Termount's Crypt you can use to disrupt it. And then Leyline of the Void and Rest in Peace, those interact with all versions, because the Protean Hulk won't die. It just gets exiled. So the ability won't trigger, and they won't be able to combo even if they flash it in. So some things to think about, you know, from a Magic finance standpoint. You know, I think Protean Hulk has got bought out, or lots of people are buying it in a panic. I think in 6 months, you know, Protean Hulk will probably be, you know, I don't know, between $5 and $10. I don't think it'll be $20 card, just because, like I said, there's so many things you can do in EDH. What are you gonna, you know, what are you gonna do? You can do something else degenerate, like, is there space? You know, is there space for a Protean Hulk deck? People will build it, but it's not. I don't think it's a big deal. And I think it's way overpriced right now because of that. I think it's just people just say, oh, unbanned, buy it, you know, which is like, okay. But then, you know, later they realize, oh, why do I have all these Protean Hulks? And then as the price starts to dip, it takes a little dip, and then people just start panic selling because they said, oh, I don't want to lose my opportunity to make money. So it's a race to the bottom. And then, you know, it'll never recover fully. It'll never be $2 again, but that's just what happens when these buyouts happen. You know, the card doesn't ever recover. It just goes lower than the hype buy, the hype price, right? So anyways, I hope you enjoyed these talks today. I kind of cut it a little bit short, or tried to cut it a little bit short, because I don't want to be talking for 30 minutes. Um, you know, I thank you for listening. Comment, let me know if you like this kind of stuff. I like to talk about game design and my projects on this channel, but hey, I'm gonna try something different, and if you like it, then maybe I'll do more of it. Anyways, have a great day.